Hi, this is Rosie, and thank you for coming to Rosie Reacts. I'm going to be reacting to the explanation video for BTS Suga Interlude Shadow. I really enjoyed this song. It's probably one of my favorites on the album. I think it's my favorite solo. So this was actually recommended to me by my sister. She said if there's one explanation to do the one by Bookish Theories. So that's what I'm watching. So let's get into it. I'm curious.
Hello and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, I would like to talk about BTS's Interlude Shadow, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of both the lyrics and the music video. Now, much like we were expecting, Shadow features Suga and deals with the shadow concept that was foreshadowed ever since Intro Persona came out. The fact that this is an interlude is immediately really interesting because it kinda suggests that Persona and 7 should be seen as part of the same story. This makes sense because by ending Persona with Dionysus, BTS metaphorically freed the shadow we are now seeing in the interlude. In Jung's theories, the shadow is the part of us that we repress in our unconscious. It represents our fears, our anger, our weaknesses,
Okay,
everything
so I
hide
basically got
because
that
we
part
are
right, what the
ashamed of
shadow's
it.
supposed to
But
be,
now the
kind of.
shadow is
Yeah?
free, so what we are
Yay.
seeing here is the representation of Suga's most intimate feelings and worries. At the beginning, the video opens with a shot of a corridor that shows Yoongi and 7 shadows standing in front of closed doors. As we'll see in a second, these figures could be interpreted in different ways. So for now, let's focus on Yoongi. In the scene, Suga, which in this case is playing the shadow of himself, is standing in front of an exit door that turns into a cracked mirror. Right off the bat, this is very interesting because by comparing the exit door with the broken reflection, BTS is showing us that the door to their unconscious is now cracked and we are able to see inside of it.
It's
This
all the
links
little
us right
things.
back to the quote from
All the
Carl
little
Jung that
things.
Namjoon mentioned at the Golden Disc Awards 2020. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens to that primeval cosmic night that was so long before there was conscious ego and will be so far beyond what a conscious ego could ever reach. Now, a lot of people were obviously very confused by this quote, but now we are seeing the
Yep.
perfect representation of what that sentence implies. In the quote, Jung basically says that the dream is a door to the soul from which we can see the most primitive side of ourselves. That side that was part of us before the ego came along. Now, according to Jung, the ego is the part of us that represents reason. So before that, what we had was only what
You're right
connected us
about
to the
that
universe
too.
itself,
Sorry.
which is the shadow that we are now seeing. Back in Persona, RM asked himself who he was, and by asking this question, he opened the door to the soul the shadow is now standing in front of. Since Yoongi is awake in the scene, Shadow Yoongi is staying on his side of the door, but as soon as he is unconscious, the shadows come out. And since Persona opened the door, now the shadows follow him everywhere he goes. On a metaphorical level, this means that once you start questioning your identity, you may find parts of yourself that you don't like and that you struggle to control. But as we see in both the video and the song, BTS's shadow is also connected to their calling, which implies a conflict between who they want to be and who they are. This conflict is made evident even by the song itself. If you go back and listen to Shadow, the instrumental is actually sampled off the intro to Whoa Are You Late To, which is an album that is constantly referenced throughout the video for this specific
Well, I
reason.
didn't know the
You
context to
see, back in
realize
the
all
intro,
that.
BTS said that since you only live once, you have to live your life as you want, because everything you did will make you into the person that you will become. In Shadow, we see the outcome of this philosophy, but as it turns out, the reality they are living now is very different from the dreams they had back then. At the beginning, the song opens with Suga stating what his ambitions are. He says that he wants to be a rap star, to be king, to have everything he wants and be on top. And this is a direct callback to the Suga that we met when BTS first debuted. In the lyrics, he's voicing the ambitions that led him to begin this journey in the first place, the dreams that he had when they first started. But as the first verse begins, we go back to the present and see that these dreams look more like a nightmare. In the lyrics, he says that after wondering how far he would go, he found himself here, with the shadow at his feet that grow darker as the light becomes more intense. In the video, these lines are anticipated by the shot of him on stage and surrounded by faceless people with their phones up. This is what BTS sees when they are on stage. It's the world, and to a certain extent, it's us as well. You see, in order to understand what Jung is talking about here, we have to think about it in context. This is shadow, so it's about the negative side of their job. It's about the loneliness, the pressure, and the anxiety that come with success. This is not to say that it's always like this, because in many other instances they openly said how great it is to be who they are. But in order to get the full picture, that is, in order to understand who BTS are as people, we have to touch on the negative aspects as well as the good. And whether we like it or not, ARMY is part of both worlds. On the one hand, there is a huge amount of people who loves them and respects them. But on the other, there's also a lot of people who touches them, disrespects them, and follows them everywhere they go. This obviously applies to the press, the haters, and those people who want to involve them into scandals as well. And if you think about it, this is actually really scary, but also a part of what we call success. This is the shadow that Jung is referring to here. It's the social anxiety that comes with the...
Yeah, and then he's like the, Suga's the introvert, according to the Who is BTS video, right? So it must even be even more so for him, right? Because he values, like as an introvert, your personal space, you know? So having your entire life in the public eye, ooh, I don't know. As an introvert myself, I imagine that would be ridiculously hard.
the public.
Also, sorry, and I was just about to start it, but dude, this is BTS. This is really not what I was expecting when I started this. They're basically like taking you to college, you know? Like, this is reminding me of like an intro to psych class. Like, they could literally use this as part of a lecture for intro to psych if they were going over like Young. God, how does she pronounce his name? Is it Young? If they're going over his theories and stuff, they could use this as part of the lecture. So yeah, they're taking it to college with their music videos and their concepts for their CDs, and that's absolutely insane. Like, what group does that? It's really cool, but it's insane.
It's the pressure to deliver, it's the fear to disappoint people, it's the anger towards those who hate them and disrespect them. Now they are flying, but flying is terrifying because the higher they go, the more dangerous and lonely it gets. While they are surrounded by light, their perspective is distorted by fear. So the shadow engulfs them and turns into a monster. This implies that when the shadow takes over, that is, when fear overwhelms them, even the good things are seen in a negative light. And this is why he says that we shouldn't let him fly. This part of the song is actually very interesting because visually we get a reference to RM's reflection. Here the mics break the glass, which means that through music they are now exploring the boundaries of their identity. But when it comes to the lyrics, this line
I would have never gotten that.
RM's line in persona that in turn says that he wants to fly. This means that while the ambition of their persona pushes them to seek success and follow their dreams, the fear associated with the shadow makes them desperate and turns their dream into a nightmare. If you look closely, in the lyrics, the shadow itself is born out of light. And this is because their job is such an important part of their identity that it defines who they are. As we see later on in the video, Shadow Yoongi is part of the audience. And this is because their relationship with the outside world is such an important part of themselves that their shadow takes on the perspective of the audience itself. The fear, the anxiety, and the pressure they feel comes from the opinion of the public. And this is because their persona, that is BTS, defines them more than anything else. In the second half of the song, Suga repeats once again what his dreams are, but all of a sudden his shadow literally takes the stage and reveals the point of the entire concept. That is that the persona and the shadow are one and the same and impossible to divide. This is because the two sides are different parts of the same individual. They complete each other and cancel each other out. And as much as the persona tries to escape, the shadow will always be there no matter what. Now, at first glance, this may seem like a very negative outcome, but in reality, it is far from it, because acknowledging that the shadow is a part of us is what we need to do in order to move on to the next step. You see, according to Jung, the goal of the map of the soul is to reach individuation, which is the process of achieving balance between the persona and the shadow through the ego. Achieving balance is the only way we can reach self-improvement, but in order to do so, we first need to accept both the positive and the negative sides of ourselves. And this is exactly what happens in the song. By acknowledging that the shadow will always be a part of him, that is, by accepting that light and success will always come with darkness and fear, Jungi is actually moving a step closer to achieving balance, thus showing us how to do the same as well. So that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing.
But yeah, like, that does make sense. Like, having to accept all the parts of yourself in order to move on, something like that. Is that what she was saying? And start knowing who you really are as an individual. I mean, because if you ignore the negative aspects of your life, like if you ignore your anxiety and stuff like that, that just tends to make things worse, doesn't it? But yeah, like, seriously, it's like something that could be taught in college. It's crazy. I mean, you don't expect this from a group that's labeled as a boy band, you know, like that's what they're called when they go on shows and stuff like that, right? That's what they're referenced as a boy band. So yeah. this is pretty nuts. But everything that I've seen about them so far has basically defied my expectations, and I'm really starting to look forward to this concert and looking forward to seeing more content, learning more about their personalities as individuals as well, how they jive as a group. Just, yeah, throw at me anything that you want me to react to in the comment section. I'd be happy to take a look at it and like and subscribe. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.